Welcome to the Stressless Eating Podcast, where we help diet-obsessed and food-crazed women break themselves out of the food and body prison, end the dieting madness, and take control of their health for good. I'm your host, Leanne Ellington, and this podcast is about answering one question. How can you heal your relationship with food and your body and take a practical approach to this whole self-love journey, but without all that restriction, obsession, and shame, and without needing years of therapy to do so? If you want to know the answer, you're in the right place. All this information is 100% free, so please subscribe to and review our podcast. All right, we are recording. We are live. Okay. So, well, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I'm here today with my amazing client, Heather, and she is so graciously, I asked her, I'm like, hey, would you be willing to just share your story, share your truth, share your journey? She's such an inspiration. And so first of all, welcome. Happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And, we were just talking before we pressed record, and I'm like, you started working with me like the second month of the pandemic. Like, how crazy is that? Most people look at it like 2020 is like, oh my gosh, it's been so bad. It's been so, harmful and detrimental to my health. And it was when you decided to just really take ownership of that. So I just think that's a really cool little testament to who you've chosen to be in this pandemic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I agree.
We'll go ahead and just dive on in. I want them to hear, all about your journey. So before we dive into like what you experienced and how things are different, like just talk to us a little bit about like your life. Where were you before we met? Just a few months ago, where were you before you joined Stressless Eating? What was your life like? What was your self-image like? What was your relationship with food, your relationship with your body? Just kind of share with us a little bit of a picture of where you were before we met.
Yeah, sure. So when I first reached out to you, I was coming off of just, I had been attending multiple meetings trying to, for food and trying to really get myself back in the swing of things. I thought, I'm on pandemic quarantine. I've got all this time on my hands. Why do I feel like I can't move forward, even though I've got all this time? And so I felt it was dark. If I put words to it, it was a dark place. I felt very hopeless. I felt like my self-confidence was gone. I was looking at a list I made of all these feelings that I had before I contacted you, and I had shame, guilt. I felt heavy. I felt sad. I felt regret and shame and disappointment. And those were feelings that were starting to impact everything. And being in the pandemic, not actually getting out and seeing people, I was finding myself retreating more internally, and just those things were feeding off of each other. And I didn't want to feel that way anymore. And I knew there was more out there for me. And I knew what being happy and feeling in control and feeling proud of myself felt like. And I knew a lot of the things I was doing on paper, volunteering and helping other people, those were great things. Why couldn't I just feel as good as the things I was doing were, if that makes sense?
Absolutely.
So it was a very dark time. Mm-hmm. I don't even think I realized how dark it was until I started thinking about how I felt during that time.
Yeah. And it's so crazy. Just the contrast, like energetically who you are right now, you're just beaming. Every time I talk to you, you're so happy. And it's interesting when we look back on where we were, but it's really also the fact that you can just talk about it kind of like as data, like this is where I was, like there's no shame about it anymore,
Mm-hmm. Right. No, absolutely.
And so how was this spilling over? I mean, you are a wife and a mom and you had a full life.
Sure.
How was this spilling over? Like, who were you showing up as in your life a few months ago?
Well, what I will say is I didn't think I was a Debbie Downer, but I really think that, no offense to Debbies, but I really think that I was going through life just being kind of a downer to people. I would get on calls at work, and I would then be complaining to somebody about what so-and-so said. and I would recognize after that, I'm like, that's not who I want to be. But, it was just my natural, that's what I was doing. And I wasn't showing up as a very, very positive influence to others like I really want to be.
Wow.
And that's generally who I used to be. So, and I think even with my kids, not that I wasn't showing up, but I was just letting some things go. Like I wasn't as engaged as I wanted to be. I was engaged, but I wasn't as engaged as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And even with my husband, I would say the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned like you weren't as happy as you used to be. It's like it happens so subtly and we don't even notice that it's kind of like drained from us, and then all of a sudden we take a look at our life. Like, I don't even know who I am anymore in a way. It sounds kind of, dramatic when I say
yes.
But it is, Yeah.
Yes.
So in terms
That's
of
exactly
where
it.
you were before we started working together, before you got, your hands and your mind and brain, I should say, on the tools and the system of thinking that you learned, were you like skeptical that this was going to ever be fixed? Were you hopeful? Like, where was your brain about that?
So I think it was a mixed bag. I was hopeful because I didn't want to be hopeless anymore and feel that way. But I also thought I have tried so many things and I have tried mindset work before. And I thought, but there was something about the energy that I was receiving from you that I thought, all right, this gal, she believes in me. I can probably do this, and then I think at one point you said, just radically commit for 12 weeks. Can you do that? And I was like, I have radically committed to being miserable for a long time. I can do this for 12 weeks. So yes. And that was a game changer.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I'm just very forthcoming with my clients before I even invite them into the program. I'm like, listen, like this is everything I'm telling you. I'll be totally transparent. It's simple, not easy. And it's not something that you can dabble in. But if you are ready to radically commit and just really, I jokingly say like healthily obsess over it for 12 weeks, it will radically transform your life. And that's what you're saying. You're like, I've been miserable for way longer than that. Like I can do 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, I mean, I won't, spill the beans or spoil it, but like, I think it was like our week 6 call or week 5 call that you had your food freedom already. And you were like, what am I going to do with the rest of the 6 weeks? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
so I can say,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I finished your thought.
I was just going to say, my life is definitely changed because of this program for sure.
Amazing. And so what was your relationship with food like? Like, the analogy I gave is kind of this inner food police where there's our version of restriction and dieting control followed by our inner rebel that kind of says, screw it, needs a carefree abandonment. Like, what does your version of that look like? What was the food prison that you were living in?
So I had like 2 prisons. So I had my public prison, which was if I was, during the day, if I was going to work, I ate only, I'd done Whole30s, all these different programs. And so I would eat very carefully during the day and in public. And then when I would come home and when everyone had go to bed, that was my freedom, like my free prison, but it was really let me eat all the food prison. That's where I would release all that restriction and then I would shame. And then the next morning it would start all over again. It was this vicious cycle. And it was really, when you say it's a prison, it really is a prison when you do not choose not to eat meals with your family or eat differently than your family just because of a program or a rule that you have in your head that you need to follow because maybe, legumes aren't good or, even though you love beans, so it's totally, it really was a prison.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like one of those things, like you said, it's like at night when nobody's really around, it almost becomes that like secret prison and we have shame about our shame. And it just goes down, takes us down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and how were you feeling in your body? Like, what were you not doing because of your body? What were you not wearing? Like, where were you in terms of your relationship with your body and your comfort in your skin?
I know where you're going with this not wearing thing. You remember that.
Okay. So now I'm revamping the question. You have to answer that question. And then would you mind sharing, I think it was like the third week or something, you had this massive breakthrough with the tank top, right?
Yes. So
you share it. Yeah.
Yes, there was a whole outfit change. So, so I covered up all the time. And I would use excuses that, I think you even talk about, and way back in your life, you wore this black cardigan. Well, I had a cardigan collection and I would cover up all the time, and it didn't matter how hot it was. And, I didn't feel comfortable. And even when it would come down to, like different activities we'd be doing, I would sometimes dress so that I wouldn't have to do the activity. Well, I'm in a dress, so I can't play sports, or I'm wearing these shoes and I'm not going to go barefoot, so I'm not going to play kickball with I would do that just to not feel like I had to do something. But what was a breakthrough for me was that when like you said, I think it was the third week, I was going to get dressed, and it was a hot day, and we were going for a family hike, and I put on a tank top, and then I went to grab my cardigan to put over it. And I was like, why am I grabbing this cardigan? It's hot out. And I was like, because I don't want anybody to see these arms. And then I was like, wait a second. Nobody, who cares about your arms? You have, your arms are strong. That's how you can move through life. Those arms hug people. Those are great arms. And I went outside and I did that walk with my family, and I was not hot, overheating. I was not catching my cardigan on a leaf or something. It was just so different. It's such a different experience, and I felt so proud of that. And I still am, and it's carried over. It carried over just a few weeks. Then afterwards, I hadn't worn shorts in, I would think, since high school, so 20 years. And I put these shorts on, and I wore them with a top, inspired by like one of my, an Instagram gal I follow. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm wearing shorts. And I just was so excited. So there has been a lot of like breakthroughs in just how I just approach my body and how I show up for myself there.
Yeah. Oh, this is so huge. And anybody listening knows what a big deal that is. If you've been living in a certain way of being around your body and avoiding certain activities and not wearing shorts for 20 something years, like the day that you first wear shorts, like, that's a really big deal, And all of my clients come to me thinking that like food is the biggest problem that they have. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. The food stuff is simple when you address all the self-image and body image stuff. And that's why we don't dive into the food stuff right away. And that's why when we do hit the food stuff, like around week 4, week 5, a little bit in week 3, I mean, there's little bits and pieces of it every week, but like, simple, it sits in because you've built this solid foundation. And so the idea that you went 20 something years without wearing shorts, and however long you spent in your life avoiding activities and wearing cardigans to cover up your body, or wearing what covered you rather than what you really wanted to wear, the fact that you just disappeared that in a matter of like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
People think like, nope, you need years of therapy for that, and years of like, working on yourself and doing the mindset work. It's like, no, when you have the framework and the philosophy and you start at the brain and the nervous system, miracles can happen.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, so cool. So cool. And so how has your life changed as a result of enrolling in the program? What's different?
So a lot of things are different. I feel how I feel is, and how I'm showing up for myself is radically different. So I feel as though, and I think I said this yesterday, that I am creating my life. It's not happening to me anymore. I'm not whatever's going on outside isn't really, it really doesn't affect me anymore. It's how I'm showing up for myself. I mean, I show up for myself now, and that wasn't happening before. So my confidence is higher. It's back, it's restored to where it used to be. I feel proud of myself again. I mean, I'm recognizing that, hey, I'm doing a pretty good job at a lot of things. And so, I think I've shown up for my kids better, and that, we're doing more activities together. Just, there's a few exercises that we do, you start off doing, where you recognize kind of where some gaps are maybe in how you want to show up for yourself. And I feel like that made a huge difference for me, and that I have identified small ways that I can improve in big areas of my life. And those have felt so easy, but have made a huge difference.
I love that. And I mean, you and I have talked about this before, and I've talked to all my clients. I'm like, ladies, we are not going to be living in a world of rainbows and butterflies. You're going to have days where like curveballs come at you. You're going to have weeks where you feel like you've had the week from hell, and you need to figure out like, what are the breadcrumbs that are going to bring you back? Like almost expecting that life is going to throw you a curveball of some sort. So who are you now when you show up and you have that day where you're like, you know what? This isn't the best day so far, or I'm feeling stressed out about that. Like, who do you show up as now when that happens versus how did you used to react?
So sure. So I can say what has changed is when I used to get an email that made me feel bad, I would then react like, bleh. I'd feel sad, I would feel angry, I'd feel upset, and then it would grow into the rest of my day. And then my husband would come home and I'd complain, and I would, maybe take something out on the kids. But what happens today, and this happened just on Tuesday, started out my day really, just cheery and fine. And then I got an email that just made me think, that is not right. And so I started a moment of, I'm going to complain. And then I reset and said, hello, no, that's not going to take away my joy, and not going to. So I did a couple of things. I went back to my recipe or my ingredients for my life, and I did those. And I just, my day ended up being fantastic. I ended up getting, some great news, and, it was just, and I know that news could have come, but I would have maybe not seen that new, the great news was as great as it was if I was in a funk all day.
Totally. Yeah. Because if you're not able to receive it, it's like you miss all the great things that are happening in your life because you're focusing on problems and what you don't like and who you're not being. It's so powerful. And Heather, you mentioned this idea of like, you go back to your recipe, and ladies that are listening to this, like, that's why, if anybody tries to give you a cookie cutter recipe for your happiness, a cookie cutter recipe of what to eat, how to move your body, I don't want to sound dramatic, but like run fast, because nobody can tell you what that is. Like, you've got to experiment and figure out what that is for you. And your recipe is different than my recipe, is different than all my other clients' recipe. And they have the same philosophies and tools that we use to create it. But your recipe is your recipe. And now you have it. You have the breadcrumbs, and they're yours, even when you get that email, even when, things aren't going our way. You get to come back to who you are. And it's really, really powerful to just hear you. And again, also just touch on your energy, just the energy that you have. And I know people that are listening to the audio of this can't see your face right now, but just like, you're beaming, you're glowing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me, why, well, first of all, how is your relationship with food now?
So this is one thing I can say about this program, just if I may, before I say what my food relationship is that you say when you sign up that you're available, and Leanne, you are available. And I love that about you, is that you take care of your people. And so I just feel like that, and being able to share like some of the wonderful things that are going on, even though they didn't seem maybe that significant, I was like, if I emailed, somebody that I was eating a bowl of pasta, they would be like, well, that's great. Who cares? Or there's too many carbs in that. But you recognized, and because you had spent time with me, that you recognized what a big deal it could be to be eating a bowl of pasta and not being afraid that you're going to eat a whole big pot of pasta. Yeah. So that was my food freedom now, is that when I make something or make food or I order food, I'm not afraid that I'm going to eat all of the food. I know that I'll eat and I'll enjoy what I eat, but I won't. It's not something that's controlling me anymore. I'm in control of the bites I take. So it's so different.
Yeah. And, you said that you used to have a lot of shame and you're trying all the diets and there was all this stress. Like, how is your stress level about food now?
Well, there isn't really any stress anymore, which is really cool. Now, maybe my only stress is like if my mother-in-law is having dinner, will I like it? Like, is it? Yeah, right. But yes, but no. But it's not. What is she serving? Because it has something in it that I'm not eating at the moment. It is just such a different relationship. It feels so much more free, and I feel more joy about food. I have been cooking more than I've cooked in a long time. And just because I know that I'm safe, I feel safe around food again.
Food. That's a huge
yeah.
Safe around food.
Yeah. I don't think I've said that yet, but that is really what I feel safe around it.
That's amazing.
Which I didn't feel very safe before. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And just to kind of share a little tidbit, that same conversation that we had, that I referenced, this happens all the time with my stressless eating clients, and you've heard it now subsequently on these calls that you're on. But like it's because we're starting at the brain and we're not working in like overhaul, like 0 to 60 mentality, like harder, faster, more, which is what most dieting is. It was just these subtle changes that were so doable that you were able to complete every single week. And by, I think it was like the 5th or 6th week, we were on a call and you were like, yeah, I ate this, I ate pasta and I stopped when I didn't want any more and I didn't have any shame about it. And I don't remember the exact words you said, but basically you were just like, I'm just like eating. And I don't remember the last time I stressed about food or had shame about it. And so I remember I like recounted it to you because I think you asked me like, how can I take this to the next level or something like that? And I was like, whoa, hold up. Did you just tell me that you're eating for pleasure and not feeling any shame or guilt? You feel totally in control of food. It's not controlling you anymore. You know exactly when you're eating and why you're eating instead of like letting your emotions run you. And I just listed off all the things. I basically like mirrored back to what you said to me. And you were like, yeah. And then I remember being like, now what you're doing right now, is this something that like overhauled your life? Was it hard? Could you do this the rest of your life? And you were like, yeah, no, this is easy. I was like, Heather, this is food freedom. Like, this is it.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, this is food freedom. So like, what was that moment like when you realized that you had it and that it wasn't this like big thing you had to work for? And like what was that experience like? Because I'm sure it was very different than, what you've ever experienced before.
I mean, I'll be honest, I was shocked because it like crept up on me and I didn't realize it was happening. And when like I said at the beginning, when I look back at how I felt, I didn't realize how bad I felt then. And I didn't realize how good I was feeling. I didn't realize how vast the difference was. I mean, I noticed a subtle change, but I didn't really notice like how big it was until you said, wait a second, girl. And then I started going back through and I'm like, you're right. Oh my God. It was amazing. And I think I was beaming I'm still beaming, but I was just so thrilled. And I have a journal that I write in. It's still on my gratitude list. It is definitely something that I'm very, very grateful for.
And that's the thing. It's just so subtle because we're doing it in a way where we're setting you up to win and we're shifting your brain. This is brain changing. Like you can't unsee what you're seeing now.
Yes.
Having to will and, white knuckling your way to not eat something because like you said, I want pasta, I eat pasta, but now like I'm influencing the pasta. The pasta isn't influencing me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So fun. I love that.
Very cool.
And it happens. Just like so subtle. You're like, wait a minute. it's everything that you came to me to get, but didn't know you had.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So why do you think that this program was different than anything you've ever tried before? I know you said you've done the mindset stuff. You've done like every diet under the sun. Like, why was this different?
So I started saying it a little bit before, I started to get like emotional. So I'm going to try to keep myself together. But what I think is different about this program is different than a book that you're reading, or even if you're going to Weight Watchers and you have a really great leader, or if you have even if you have a coach that maybe is coaching a lot of people, but you don't really have that interaction with them one-on-one or calls. What you bring to this program, Leanne, is not just these great tools that you've created, but you bring yourself to it. And I have, as a woman, and maybe men feel this too, but as a woman who really puts a lot into everything she does, I am the oldest child. I've taken care of everybody my whole life. I don't really feel taken care of very often. And even though I have an amazing, group of friends and family that do really take care of me, but I don't let them take care of me probably. And I knew I could trust that you would take care of me. From that very first conversation we had, and you were talking about just some of the things that were a part of the program, I was like, this gal is going to take care of me. And you were talking about how the program works, and I haven't felt this taken care of in so long. And that's what's different for me, is that I felt very taken care of. Crying it. But I really did. So thank you for that.
Gosh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I love you, and I love all my clients. And I jokingly said this on the call last week. I'm like, my number one rule for working with clients is like, I have to like them.
Yeah. And you can sense that. And
yeah.
And it's real. Like, I really think, that's not something you say. I really believe that it's real. And I think that what you bring with yourself and just how much you care about your clients, and that when you say you can call me, you can text me, or, whatever, you really mean it. And so I really think that brings a whole up level to what you're doing, and that you can give it your all, because I know that you're giving it your all too. And I love that.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. I feel that through Zoom right now, and
good.
Yeah, and it's just a testament to you too. Like, there was something inside of you that you knew needed to come out. And for whatever reason, you knew it was safe to share it with me. And the thing about this particular struggle, the food struggle, the body struggle, the most common thing I hear is that women, it's like they keep it so close to their chest because there is so much shame around it, and it's like their deepest kept secret. Like, they don't want anybody to know that it's happening to them because there's so much shame. They, just like you, most of my clients are just super successful in every area of their lives. And this is the elephant in the room. And, it's a testament to who you are, because you basically were like, I'm taking the veil off. I'm no longer going to live behind this. I'm no longer going to tiptoe around it or try to out diet it or outsmart it. I'm going to actually get the help that I need. And like your courage and your vulnerability to share with me, for us to be able to get to the point in the conversation that we did. Because, as I don't invite everyone into the program. I have to know 1,000% that I can help you. And I do. I'm thinking about what I just said, how I was like, I have to like you. And here's the context of that. Like, I do every once in a while get on the phone, and people are kind of like, some people can be jerks, and it's like, I can't help a jerk if you're a jerk to me.
Yeah.
But anyways, I digress. But it's just like a testament to how, and then when you came in the program, it got even more amplified. Like, you were just super vulnerable all the time. You went all in. You were 1,000% coachable. And the reason I have, we have our, our weekly calls and our one-on-one calls and the unlimited help desk, and you guys have my number to text me and all that, because it's a 24-hour-a-day problem. And like, I don't want you to just go, the goal is not for you to just join and go through the 12 weeks. Some businesses, like, it's like, get them in, get them out. I'm like, no, I want you to get the outcome, whatever it takes, and the truth is that, like, and I told you this on the first call too. I'm like, if you're 1,000% committed, I'll be 1,000% committed. Like, and I think that's the problem with a lot of other programs, is they don't help us find our own accountability, it's like we're looking for somebody else to hold us accountable, and that's a losing game. And so again, it's a testament to you. You were ready to find your own why and your own accountability and become the version of yourself that owned this, rather than like kind of becoming codependent. Like I was there too when I was codependent on a trainer, codependent on a diet or a nutritionist to tell me what to eat, tell me how to live. And we never learned. So thank you for just showing up the way you do and trusting me and knowing that you could, and look at who you became. And it was so fast. It was just so rapid because you were so ready. You were so coachable.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So why do you think that this was more successful than any programs that you've done? Why did it work for you?
Yeah. So one is, I think I was coachable. So I knew that I don't know everything. And so I had to kind of let go. And there were a few times when I read or was going through the program and I thought, why do I have to do this? But I thought, look, there's a reason, there's a method to her madness. I got to do this. And so I think because I was coachable, and when I would send you things, and if I was completely off track, you would let me know, and you were in a kind way, and, but also you were direct enough to let me know. And that is one of the reasons this was so successful. I also do believe, because I knew I was committed, I was going to make a change. So I held up my end of the bargain. I was really working hard. But that said, I think the changes that I was making, I didn't even feel as I was making. I was committed to doing the work.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize as I was doing all that work that the changes were happening. Wow. So it was very subtle. But I think if you put your trust in the program and put your trust in the steps that you're telling us to take, and you do communicate with Yulian, and attend the meeting or the calls, it just happens. That is just, it feels like magic almost, because it's so subtle. But as it's happening, you don't feel it, but it is.
And it is magic. It's the magic of neuroplasticity and how to change the brain. I talk to you, hear me on the calls. I'm like, the brain, it's so magical. Like it's a wonderful thing, and yeah, you bring up such a powerful point. Like, my inner lazy gal, she's always with me. And like, if there was a way to shortcut things, like I want the shortcut, And so there's things that are part of the program that it's like, there is always method to my madness. And I always want to meet your inner lazy gal where she is, because I assume we all have one. Like, we don't want to put in more work than we have to. Like, we can, work smarter, not harder. So it is a bit intensive in the beginning, but it allows us to be able to work smarter, not harder. And we need that like pattern interrupt in the brain in the beginning, and that's why the program is descending intensity, meaning like the first few weeks are front loaded. It's a bit more time and energy intensive, and then it kind of tapers off, because that's what we need to create that dramatic shift in the brain. But they are subtle,
Yeah.
And just like you remember, I tell everybody, I'm like, listen, this is one of those things where like this program, and my mentor says it best, like you can't be partially pregnant, you can't partially commit to this program. It doesn't work if you dabble. Like it just doesn't. I'd rather be transparent and us part ways as friends, than me try to tell you that this is going to work if you dabble. Like it really will. And you just took it to heart and you put your heart and soul into it, and got your freedom, like I said, very quickly.
Yeah.
All happened very fast.
I did.
So I love it. So cool. And so why do you think it was worth it for you to invest in getting the help that you need? Like rather, because this is obviously a very a radically different approach. Like why was it worth it to invest in this rather than go down that like diet or weight loss road some more?
Well, nothing else was working. Nothing else that I was putting any effort into, even though it was not working, and I was getting the same results. I would get, through 4 weeks or so, and then it just kind of peter out. Like I'd do such and such workout or whatever diet plan or whatever. It just wasn't working. And so for me, I thought, you know what? I have spent 20 years doing this, maybe longer, because I'm sure there were more issues before, but I can commit for 12 weeks. I can do this, and it's worth it I'm in quarantine. We don't have anything else to do. Might as well commit to a really life-changing program. And it did. And it made, I would say, it's changed my life. So
Yeah.
That's why it's worth it.
And what interesting timing, like when the word quarantine was just so commonplace then, you know what I mean? And lockdown and all that. But it's just like, yeah. I remember on the call, like you were just like, this is the time for me to do it, because a lot of people would use quarantine and lockdown as an excuse not to do something. And you were like, no, this is the time for me,
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah.
And so what would you say, like, to anyone who's listening right now and they're hearing your story and they're hearing your truths, like anyone who's on the fence about making this decision to heal her struggle and like go down this road and like the stressless eating road, rather than going on another diet and going back to therapy and starting, reading a bunch of books, like what would you say to any woman that's on the fence about taking this road? Maybe they have a preconceived notion that it's going to be like dark and painful and you have to dig up all wounds, like whatever it is, like what would be your advice to anybody sitting on the fence right now?
Well, it would definitely be to do it. I mean, to jump off that fence and run into the arms of stressless eating, because it has made the biggest difference in my life. And I can take these skills that I've learned here and beyond. And so, I mean, I'm sharing them with my friends. There's one thing you talk about, data versus drama. If they're complaining about something and I'm like, hold up, girl, you're talking about, what's the data here? And here's what your drama is. You're making it a much bigger deal than what it is. Oh, it has really impacted so many things. So it is so worth it. And it is, I would say, I don't want to say, it's no pain. Like there is work involved for sure. I mean, you have to do the work, but when you do the work, it happens so naturally, what the outcome that you're looking for. And you don't, like I said, you've said it 100 times. I didn't even know that I'd been getting there because it was so subtle.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, so good. So good. Well, thank you so much for just coming on here and sharing your truths and sharing your story. And I'm just so proud of who you are and what you really, like, you've gone home to yourself. Like this is who you were,
Oh yeah.
You want to just speak to that a little bit before we sign off about like your emotional home now and just like who you are now and just having gone home to where you are in your heart.
Yeah. So I would say that in general, I'm a pretty positive person. I think I've been told, that I am fun to be around. I'm not a negative person, but I was not feeling like that person. I was feeling like a negative person. I was feeling like I was doom and gloom. I was not seeing myself the way some other people were seeing me. And I think through this, I have changed my perception of myself back to what it really is. Like I'm seeing that, wow, I really am a really fun gal to be around. And I really am a great mom. And I really am really good at this. And I'm doing a lot of wonderful things. And it has restored my confidence. And I am back to who I feel like I've been meaning to be forever. So it's great.
Amazing. Yeah. Now your husband, your kids, your work, they all get this version of you. You get this version of you.
Yeah. It's way better.
Oh my God.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for just coming on here and sharing your story. We are so grateful for you. And I am just so beyond proud of you, Heather. It's just a blessing to watch you, blossom and really go, like you said, go home to who you always have been. You just you lost her for a little while,
Yeah.
It's not even her, it's her and then some. She's better, she's brighter, she's bolder, she's more free, so
amen. Yes, exactly.
For you. Awesome. Thanks again for being here, and
thank you.
Signing out for now. See you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you heard and you're interested in breaking out of your own food, body, and diet prison, here's what I want you to do next. Head on over to stresslesseating.com. That's stresslesseating.com and sign up to watch the Stressless Eating webinar, where I'll walk you through the exact 5-step game plan my female clients use to conquer emotional eating, self-sabotage, and finally heal themselves from the restrictive all-or-nothing diet mentality for good, but without obsessing or spending years in therapy to address it. I've laid it all out for you there in 5 easy steps. Remember, Healing your relationship with food and your body does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance to make it happen, and we've helped clients all over the world take back their power from the food and find true and lasting freedom while enjoying life and warm chocolate chip cookies along the way. To see if we can help you do the same, head on over to stresslesseating.com. I'm Leanne Ellington, and I'll see you next time.